Howdy y'all, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to discuss Mithraism, or the cult of Mithra. My intent is to dissect the current narrative in a way which allows you to better understand how this ancient practice still influences most secret societies today, while also hopefully giving you the tools to see all the relevant information that is clearly being compartmentalized by mainstream academia. First, the origin of Mithraism is mostly unknown, but it is believed to trace back to at least the 1st century BC. Mithra was worshipped with a celebration on his birthday of December 25th and was considered to be the savior of all humankind. This sounds familiar. However, the worship of Mithra as a Zoroastrian deity in Iran can be traced back even further. Mithra, also known as Meher, Mithra, or Mithras, is one of the most ancient identifiable Iranian deities who was believed to be the main god of covenants, contracts, oaths, and justice, as Mithra was one of the first deities to be seen as a judicial figure who represented pure truth. Mithra was also, for lack of a better term, the leader of the other deities, as Mithra was considered the ruler of friendship, bonds, and the sun itself, leading to Mithra also being known as the god of the harvest, the cattle protection, and the great waters which separated the world. In such, Mithra could be considered the most important deity in all of the ancient Iranian lexicon. The etymology of Mithra is quite remarkable, or Mithra, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you may already be familiar with this, but we have a solid amount of evidence which suggests that northern India, what is today southern Russia, and western China could have been the original locations for the sprouting of knowledge, the forming of the first societies, the things that transformed into the culture that spread across the world. In the Vedic texts, within Vedic Hinduism, the name Mitra or Mithra derives from the root mi, meaning to bind, within the root suffix tra, meaning the causing of. So Mitra would mean the one who binds them, the one who unites them. And in return, you can see how Mitra became the deity of oaths of a binding contract. In Middle Persian, Mitra became Meher. While Mitra is not by name mentioned in the oldest Zoroastrian text, the Gathus, Mithra is considered to be part of the Ahuric triad, alongside Ahura Mazda and Apam Napat. You can see how the earliest Zoroastrian texts bear a striking resemblance to early Christian teachings, and both belief systems hold in the highest regard their own Holy Trinity. Again, the overlap between ancient teachings appears to indicate the interconnectedness of the earliest belief systems regarding the afterlife. Mithra or Mitra was also considered one of 3 guardians alongside justice and obedience of the Shinvat bridge, which crossed the threshold of life, separating the world of the living from the world of the dead, and a bridge which all deceased must cross and be judged in Zoroastrian belief. As the god of contract, Mithra is considered undeceivable, infallible, eternally watchful, and never resting. He acts as the eyes of the Creator. We also have evidence which suggests that towards the end of the peak period of Zoroastrianism, a rogue sect developed, some would call it a secret society, who worshipped Mithra and attempted to shape the future of Zoroastrianism from within the shadows. This, in part, was said to have caused Mithra to have been written out of at least a handful of early Zoroastrian texts. Also, according to the Zoroastrian hymn that's dedicated to Mithra, he is very much described as physically resembling what we might consider today to be an H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu type of monster. Mithra, and I quote, "as wide as pastures of the 1,000 ears, the lofty and everlasting," end quote. But this hymn actually goes on further to describe Mithra in vast detail, and I quote, "whose word is true, who is of the assembly, who has 1,000 ears, the well-shaped one, who has 10,000 eyes, the exalted one, who has wide knowledge, the helpful one, who sleeps not, the ever wakeful. We sacrifice to Mithra the Lord of all countries, whom Ahura Mazda created, the most glorious of all the deities." End quote. In many early Persian inscriptions, we can also see a calling on Mithra for protection, alongside the other two members of the Holy Zoroastrian Trinity. For example, numerous inscriptions found at Susa, Persepolis, and Hamadan. In the Zoroastrian cultural sphere, the 16th day of every month was dedicated to Mithra, as well as the entire 7th month of the year. The Iranian civil calendar that was adopted only in 1925 adopted the Zoroastrian month names, and thus the 7th month of the year became known as Mer, another form of Mithra. The 16th day and 7th month are respectively the first day of the second half of the month and the first month of the second half of the year, indicating the more esoteric spiritual importance of Mithra. Royal names incorporating Mithra are found as far as Parthia, Armenia, and ancient Anatolia. Mithra, in the Persian creation legends, was also considered to be the living spirit of God who rescued the first man from the darkness which had engulfed him, leading to the founding of the first societies. More commonly, Mithra, in the form of Mer, was also said to create the structures and the buildings, the constructions of light, which raised the first man out of his darkness and brought him back to the light. I found this portion to be profoundly important and fascinating, as essentially, depending on how you interpret the text, Mithra basically was a deity who constructed massive, ornate buildings. Some would perceive this as temples, but the text doesn't really clarify, just that Mithras helped to first build these structures which brought back humanity to the light. Essentially, this adds fuel to the theory, to the fire, that from the earliest days of Earth, we had structures and we had buildings. We could find places of protection, quite literally, seemingly erected by an unknown higher power and then inherited by the first men, thus leading to the first men worshipping their creators. Mithra was the spirit which essentially built this world and then handed it over to man. When we dive into the Roman cult of Mithras, it becomes even more important to understand that, at its core, Mithra can be seen as the original watcher who helped man in his time of need and provided man with the structures that led to the first society. In Rome, Mithra is not depicted as a massive creature of unknown origin with many eyes and many ears stretching across the fertile plain, but rather, Mithra is almost 99% of the time, I'd say in just about every Roman depiction, shown wearing a Phrygian cap. I've discussed this before, however, when you really start looking for it, you will find that the Phrygian cap is one of a handful of creations that continually pops up in histories across our Earth, seemingly without any explanation for why or how the artwork, etc., is shown depicting individuals with this cap. It's like the burial mounds, which we find in seemingly every occupied continent on Earth, or the massive castle and star fortifications which also appear across vast stretches of Earth, all seemingly built in a similar fashion, but according to academia, these creations have nothing to do with one another. One of the more esoteric aspects of these repeating symbols in history that you'll find is the Phrygian cap. The Phrygian cap became synonymous with the French following the French Revolution. However, the Phrygian cap throughout history has been seen as a marker or indicator of Persians, Scythians, Tartarians, Balkans, as well as a cornucopia of smaller kingdoms in Asia and Europe. According to mainstream scholars, the oldest depiction of a Phrygian cap can be found within the ruins of Persepolis in Iran. We're told the original Phrygian cap is now associated with the Liberty cap of Rome, which emancipated slaves of ancient Rome had to wear as to not have their identity mistaken, which again makes you wonder. We're told Rome was a massive amalgamation of different cultures and influences, and yet through the definition of a liberty cap, we're told essentially you could tell who was enslaved in Rome just by looking at them, causing the need for such liberty caps to identify who was actually free. The Phrygian cap was said to be worn by every culture of Iran, from Cappadocians to the Saka, and the female Phrygian cap was known as a tiara. It appears this is where the tiara, or crown, as we are familiar with it today, first took form. As Phrygian cap wearers or Iranians became the legends of the early Hellenistic world, the Phrygian cap was often described in the greatest myths and legends of ancient Greece, and the cap was often depicted on the greatest heroes in Greek artwork, including King Midas. The Phrygians and Iranian tribes became conflated throughout ancient Greece, and by many historians' accounts, the Greek thought of the Trojans and the Anatolians as Phrygian in origin. The ancient and mysterious Amazons are also depicted wearing the Phrygian cap, and furthermore, the Phrygian hero Paris, who was the namesake for the largest city in France, wore a Phrygian cap. And with the revolutions in France and in Paris, the Phrygian cap was adopted as a symbol of Parisian freedom. Phrygian hats and caps are also said to have transformed. Some would say they were built into Phrygian helmets, which became some of the most requested and popular armor of ancient times. Again, why do I discuss all of this? Because the first Phrygian cap is associated with Mithra, the earliest depiction of the cap being a gift from Mithra, his protection, which he bestowed upon the people who worshipped him. In Greece, Mithra was often known as part of another trinity, the protective deities that were called upon by warriors, which included Apollo and Helios as well. What's even stranger, the Roman cult of Mithra appears almost unannounced and with little information regarding its backstory. We're told by the 1st century AD, coinciding with the early origins of Christianity, a cult dedicated to the secret rites of Mithra was developing on the outskirts of Rome. The historian Plutarch claims that the cult of Mithra arose amongst the pirates of Asia Minor. Yet to fully define how this cult multiplied so rapidly is nearly impossible. We're told by the last quarter of the 1st century AD, or from roughly 75 AD through 100 AD, hundreds of underground temples dedicated to the cult of Mithra were founded throughout the known Roman world, all expertly dug out by the hands of fine architects. However, nearly all of them lack proper documentation to know who actually built these structures. According to Plutarch, Mithra worship dated back to the beginning of early Greek history, and Plutarch believed the underground secret tunnels to Mithra had been founded hundreds, if not thousands of years earlier, before they were rediscovered during Roman times. The cult of Mithra, which greatly influenced Rome in secret, required an oath of secrecy to join, during which an elaborate initiation ceremony was held, with multiple witnesses of this dedication. The Mithras were believed to carry on their lives with great symbolism, and the rituals involved the reciting of many ancient chants. Portions of the earliest chants of the cult of Mithra have even survived until today, and they were actually found in Egypt. However, almost no Mithraic scripture or first-hand accounts of the secret rites have been found anywhere besides in Egypt. We're told Mithraic temples were almost always whitewashed, making them almost impossible to restore, and it appears that Mithra was celebrated not only on his birthday, being December 25th, but also on the date that was considered to be the solar maximum of the year. Still, So much of what we know today about Mithraism is speculation at best. Each underground temple to Mithra had multiple altars for sacrificing, and yet it is also believed that the cult of Mithra practiced in secret. Therefore, the livestock and other animals that were being sacrificed were most likely not of Roman origin and did not adhere to the common Roman standards for sacrifice. We're told many cave paintings seem to obscure this history further, as it appears the beliefs of Mithraism varied from location to location. Temples to Mithra are buried deep down below ground. They are all windowless and they're very distinctive. In cities, the basement of an entire city block might have been converted, again in secret, to becoming a temple of Mithra. Elsewhere, the temples could have been excavated and then they were vaulted over and hidden. And still, other Mithra temples were converted from natural caves whose entrances were then closed off and covered over. There were 7 grades of initiation into the cult of Mithra. Grade 1 was the Corvex, the raven or the crow, with the symbol being the caduceus, and the ruling planet was Mercury. Grade 2 was the Nymphas, the bridegroom, with the symbol of a handbell or the earlier mentioned tiara, with the ruling planet being Venus. Grade 3 was known as Miles, the soldier, and the symbol was the drum or the lance, with the ruling planet being Mars. Grade 4, Leo, the lion, with the symbol of the thunderbolt or the iron shovel, had a ruling planet of Jupiter. Grade 5 was known as Persis, the Persian, with the symbol of the crescent moon and the Phrygian cap, with the ruling heavenly body being the moon. Grade 6, the Heliodromos, or the sun runner, had a symbol of the torch and the sun crown, with the ruling heavenly body being the sun. And finally, we have grade 7. The highest yet most common grade was known as the Pater, or the Great Father, the symbol being the shepherd's staff, ruby jewelry, and a jeweled cloak and cape. The Great Father resembled a modern pope. And grade 7, this father had a ruling planet of Saturn. One of the most well-known rites of Mithra, a rite that has survived until today, is one that still makes us really question what we have been told. We are told that Mithra struck solid rock with one of his thunderbolts, and from this rock, water began to flow forth into the earth. Now, this miracle is just one of many of these so-called rites that is reenacted or was reenacted within the ancient underground Mithra temples. The cult of Mithra only appeared to accept men, with a majority of the men being from the highest rank of soldiers in Rome, although it is also well known that a solid portion of the cult of Mithra in Rome was of Jewish origin and came from the merchant class. Mithraism was not an alternate to Rome's other traditional religions, but was one of many forms of secret, alternate practice. It is known that as a prelude to the Mithraic initiation ceremony, the initiate was given a full ritual bath, and at the end of the ceremony, they received a mark directly on their forehead. Mithraism was considered to be at the time a potent enemy of Christianity in the Western world. The mysteries of Mithra were popular among the Roman elite from at least the 1st century AD through at least the 4th century, before falling into relative obscurity with the fall of Rome. Remarkably, the secret society, the cult of Mithra, to me, has striking similarities to the secret society of the Illuminati, and some may argue that the Illuminati and other modern secret societies actually developed most of their traditions from the rites of Mithra, which some argue were preserved in the most remote and hidden organizations since Roman time.